Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of The Push with Nick and KP. We are back once again to bring you a PLE reactions video time for the PLE of Clash in Italy, which took place on May 31st. Per usual, we'll go through every single match that took place, give you our thoughts and ratings on each one, and then, of course, give you our thoughts and rating on the card overall as a whole. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into the opening contest of the evening, which has the career killer, the ring general, Gunther, going up against the American Nightmare, our undisputed WWE champion, Cody Rhodes, who is defending his undisputed WWE championship. KP, thoughts on the opening contest of Clash in Italy?
Yeah, started off the show with a match that probably wasn't overly looking forward to, but there was an opportunity that was going to be pretty good because we got two names, Cody Rhodes, Gunther. Lots of quality from both men. I think put them in the ring together, they're probably going to deliver something semi decent as a minimum. But I think what sort of put me off from this one was probably the result. I think expectedly looking for Cody Rhodes to retain here, and this one just assumed that was going to be the outcome. And yeah, unfortunately, that was the case. What I will say that's good about this matchup is that what the content that we did see was pretty good. Whilst it lasted, I thought it had a nice back and forth. The flow was pretty nice between both men. The sort of like different styles come together and playing off how you would expect them both to sort of like go through their matches. So I thought that was fine. Like it was physical and it did have that sort of like back and flow vibe. Unfortunately, though, for myself, did have a bit of a lackluster finish. And that was the main takeaway for me from this one. It does protect Gunther, that finish in a way. But what I will say is that it's quite a dumb finish, and basically what I'm referring to here is how this matchup comes to an end. We see Cody hitting Gunther with the second crossroads of the contest, and that'll be enough to for him to get the victory. As he hits that second crossroads, Gunther sort of like flails towards like the left hand side of the screen as we're watching from the hard cam, and you can sort of just like see him just like almost like nudge over a little bit. So you expect some sort of like rope spot, and there is a rope spot that comes from it. Maybe inverted, maybe a little bit confusing. And basically, when Cody does hook the leg, the other leg of Cody Rhodes actually of Gunter is actually underneath the bottom rope before the count begins. So technically speaking, in a wrestling sense, if a foot is under the rope, you can't start the count altogether because that's technically a rope break sort of style call. The referee doesn't see it though, counts to three, awards Cody the victory, and obviously we still got the champion being Cody at the end of this contest. So Gunter out, rightfully so, frustrated at the end, complained to the referee, to the official. He says, that he didn't see it and that his decision stands. Therefore, nothing will be changed in that regard. So yeah, I don't know. It was a fine match for what we did see. I was enjoying it, but unfortunately, it was maybe just a little bit short, a little bit of a dumb finish. Didn't quite like how it ended up, unfortunately. So yeah, it's just one of those things, Nothing particularly wrong about it, but it just wasn't spectacular either. But I did appreciate that it was filled with some quality whilst we were going there. We had a lot of sleeper time with Gunther and Cody to try to like choke him out, deliver that promise that he said on SmackDown. Didn't come to fruition though. Cody did get the win. I would give it a 7 out of 10 in the, for this matchup. I think it could have been a lot better. I don't think it was bad, but yeah, just somewhere in between. Nick, what are your thoughts here? Did you like the finish? Do you think it did protect Gunter in a way that actually works? Am I being overly critical about that? Did you like the content that we did see in the matchup whilst it was taking place? What are your overall thoughts?
Yeah, I suppose you could make the argument that it did protect Gunther. It just feels like a very lazy way of booking it. That coupled with the fact that this match was only 5 minutes longer than that of the shortest match on the card is surprising and was surprising. The ending felt like I had missed something, and like very abrupt, as you mentioned as well. So both these guys capable of putting on good matches. If this wasn't one of them, it was, as you said as well, good while it lasted, but was very much cut short and just to a lazy way of extending the feud. So maybe foolishly so, I thought that Gunther could win the title back here. It seems like Cody has his mind in other places. Commentary team did a good job of mentioning that as well. So it felt like they were setting that up quite nicely. And now we're just back in this weird dead space that is Gunther. If he's not retiring someone or winning a title, it just feels like he's a bit lost in the shuffle, and they lacks direction from a creative standpoint. So back there we are. Unfortunately, yeah, this one should have been much better, and honestly, it was a bit of a dud in terms of opening contests. As you know, we expect a lot from those opening contests on a PLE, and this one didn't really do it for me. 6 out of 10 for me. Yeah, it should have been a lot better. The next contest of the evening has Jade Cargill going up against Rhea Ripley, a WrestleMania rematch. Rhea Ripley defending her WWE Women's Championship. KB, thoughts on the rematch here, assuming you thought it was better than the original. And this one got some more time as well, I believe. Double the time that the WrestleMania match got here. So, yeah, curious to hear your thoughts on this one.
Yeah, well, that's the main question, isn't it? I think, when you look at this matchup, you do compare it to their WrestleMania contest not too long ago now, before this one took place. And you do have to sort of like show those comparisons. The comparison really is that this one was just so much better. And you've already touched on it. It had longer. There was just more quality to it. They were allowed to really just go through the motions and just have a bit more of a relaxed time out there rather than rushing through the proceedings and getting to the finish. But this one was really good. I thought this one was a great matchup, generally speaking, here. It's my match of the evening as well. I'll put that out right there, right now. Just a thoroughly enjoyable contest that was full of quality. I thought the two of them showed extremely good chemistry together, which was very unlike what they showed at WrestleMania. So shows what you can do when you sort of like relieve that pressure and just sort of like allow them to go out there and have fun. And they put on a decent match as a result of that as well. But yeah, very back and forth, counter after counter throughout this contest. Just saw lots of nice transitions throughout as well from both ladies here, really. And yeah, some really close kickouts as well, making for a good feel to the match. We even had interferences, as expected in this one. I don't think that was a surprise to anybody involved here. But they logically came from the build, so it made a lot of sense in that regard. It wasn't sort of like overbooked or anything. It just, seemingly was the right call about how things came to be at this point. But yeah, like I said, it just felt important. That's the thing. When they had the WrestleMania match, okay, there was a level of importance to it, but this one felt more so, if that makes sense. So yeah, I think it just hit all the right boxes for me personally. I had a great time watching this one and just thoroughly really enjoyed it. In terms of how we got to our finish in this contest, we do see Rhea going for a riptide, but BFAB, after Rhea hits the move, she comes down with Mishin. She breaks up the cover. She attempts to put Jade's foot on the ropes. I think this is the only downside of the matchup here. She doesn't quite do it. I think Jade has to do it herself because she misses the spot. And that causes the referee to stop counting regardless. BFAB and Michin then get ejected before Charlotte Flair arrives and deals with them both. And then we see, Jade and Rhea going back and forth again. Jade hits Rhea with Jaded before then Charlotte puts Rhea's foot on the rope. So tit for tat, fighting back there. I guess you can say it's one of the situations where it's just evening the odds. And Rhea then follows up with her second riptide of the matchup a little bit afterwards, and that would secure the victory for her and still your women's WWE champion. So yeah, like I said, great match. Loved it. Match of the evening. Thought these two just, went out there and killed it. Put on a great showing, and was just thankfully a much better match than the WrestleMania contest, which was a massive relief. That should have been a good contest. This one was. So yeah, turns out, what a shock it is when you give women time to put on a good match. Guess what? They put on a good match. Who knew? 8.5 from me from this one. Loved it. Thought it was a great contest. Yeah. Can't really say any more about it. What about you, Nick? How did you feel this one went for yourself in comparison to the WrestleMania meeting between the two of them? What are your overall thoughts?
Yeah, it wasn't twice as long, like I said. It was only 7 minutes longer, but it really did feel like it was twice as long, and even more so, twice as important, which I think was kind of what we're looking for and what you were kind of alluding to there, with the give them some time, let them time to cook a bit, and I feel like they did just that. Jade Cargill appears to be making some great strides. Obviously it helps when you're getting put up against the same opponent, repeatedly. But even still, a bit of a mishap there with BFAB, which you can't help but laugh at that. It does take you out of the match a bit, though, and up to that point, which was going really well. BFAB can't even get a leg on the rope spot right. So unfortunately, that is that is a sad point, and it really did take you out of the match. But regardless, up until that point, as you said, it was a very tiny discrepancy there. But up until then, this match was going really well, and I don't mind the interference as much as if it's at the very end and it doesn't, take over the entirety of the match. So no issues with that one. Again, Jade looking better and better. And yeah, I give this one an 8. So an 8 from both of us. That could possibly be a first for Jade. Love that she's making strides here and legitimately does feel like a threat against Rhea Ripley, who is, you could argue one of the most dominant, if not the most dominant women on the WWE roster. So props to WWE for continuing to trust in Jade. It does feel like she is continuing to improve. Unfortunately, her stablemate's not doing her any favors, but regardless, Jade feels like a competition here. So curious to see how they'll go with that on here. I don't know if they'll continue this feud. It feels like maybe they could, but Jade does feel like a legitimate threat in the division, which was, probably the whole point of this kind of rematch here. Rhea versus Charlotte does feel inevitable, but for what we got here, Rhea versus Jade was a fun contest and one of, if not the best matches of the night. So that's just great to see with Jade involved. Obviously, it's easy when you have Rhea as well. She's known to put on quality contests, but make that of what you will. 8 out of 10 from me. Yeah, looking forward to seeing what's next for Mommy. With that, let's go ahead and get into the next match of the evening, which has, again, a WrestleMania rematch. Brock Lesnar versus Oba Femi 2, as they're calling it. KP, this one went, I think, exactly how you expected it. I foolishly thought that they wouldn't do it, but they did the damn thing. So, thoughts on the rematch of Oba and Lesnar?
Yeah, a little gutted. I do like to be proven wrong in situations like this. Ideally, Femi winning again would have been fantastic, and he would have been great. Keep that momentum rolling. But what I will say is, yeah, Brock Lesnar winning, I'm never gonna think that's a good thing because I just don't really rate the guy in terms of what he brings to the table in the year of 2026. But in terms of what he had to physically do here to get a win over Femi, I don't think does Oba any bad problems here. I think he's fine coming off the back of this one. I don't recall. I mean, I'm not the greatest, like port of knowledge when it comes to Lesnar matches over the years, but I mean to have hit 7 F5s, including one through an announce table, a Kimura lock that was in for a good minute or so, minute and a half maybe. Yeah, Oba had to withstand a lot of offense here, and eventually was put away. Thanks to that 7th F5. I feel like Oba does come off of this one looking pretty strong still, despite losing. So I do think they've done as best a job as they can of giving Lesnar the win whilst keeping Oba Femi looking strong. I don't think the momentum will stop here with Oba, which is great to see. I would have loved to have seen Femi win, but I'm not going to really look too much into that one because the result is the result. It's done, it's dusted. But I'm just glad they didn't sort of like make it, a complete and utter, just squash. Like it could have been a couple of minutes long or whatever, and I'm glad they didn't do that. They at least stretched it out. Lesnar had to go through the mental mind games to try and find a victory here, and eventually he did. But he had to really dig deep to do so. But yeah, it's not my type of match. I've sort of praised it enough that I'm willing to do so. But this still isn't a bit of me. This felt like a battle. Yeah, it was, but it didn't have much variety or technical displays, which is what I'm sort of more liking, and I know obviously you are as well, Nick. So yeah, it's more of a blink and you'll miss it style contest here. You're gonna miss an F5, you're gonna miss a part of the contest which is sort of like quite physical and maybe a bit brutal in parts as well. And that's your typical Lesnar contest, the last number of years. In order for Brock to actually get that win, I already touched up on it, but here's how the rundown towards the late stages. Brock hits Femi with an F5 through an announce table before getting Femi back into the ring. Oh, no, sorry, before then going into the ring himself. Femi then actually gets back up, just stands up, and walks into the ring. Quite a cool spot here, just like rising very quickly. And he actually sparks himself a comeback of uppercuts. He hits a few of them, looks for a fall from grace, but Lesnar sort of escapes it and hits that 7th F5 in order to grant himself the win in this match. But yeah, I gave it a 5.5. I think it did its job. It still kept Oba looking strong, but also gave Lesnar the win, which is obviously what they're looking to do here. But yeah, just unfortunately for myself, I'm not going to enjoy this type of thing. It's not what I tend to go for. So yeah, a bit of this, bit of that, I suppose. Maybe people like this one, maybe they don't. I'm not one of those. So yeah, 5.5 from me. Nick, what do you think though? You're not the greatest fan of Lesnar as well, but you have any sort of more positive things to say about this one compared to me?
The only positive I have is one you kind of touched on as well, is, Oba wasn't buried here. But in terms of what we saw here, this isn't anything we haven't seen 20 plus times from Brock. It's just a matter of, does it last, you know, a minute, or does it last, under 10? It's just kind of which, depending on. So this one was just under 10, I think. I think it's 7-ish. But yeah, 7 F5, one of them throw an announce table, two sides of this coin for me. The first side is, Brock can't be left alone by WWE, the retirement they couldn't hold even for a month. And then the other side of that coin here is Femi, obviously, who doesn't get buried, gets booked pretty strong. You could definitely make that case. I would just make the case that you didn't need to do it at all. Just let Oba continue on. But I feel like you are pausing his momentum at the very least, and also I feel like you are kind of taking away that almost godlike complexion that Oba had coming into this. He made Brock look very human-like, and unfortunately, I feel like this does bring him down a notch. Even if he's able to recover and business as usual going forward, that's fine. But I do feel like you did halt the momentum. It just feels very unnecessary. I still am going to stick to the fact that I think a better decision here would have been just to have Oba win again. Brock, if they want to do a third rematch from that, can be sitting here, questioning his like, do I still have it, or am I done, kind of thing. I would have much rather preferred that story, but I would have preferred him not come back at all. But if we had to do this, would have preferred him come back, get beat by Oba once again, then you continue his momentum, and then Oba can beat him a third time if that is what's deemed necessary. And then Lesnar is walking away saying 1-to-1, like that was some big, grand gesture. Acted like he had bested Oba, in the grand scheme of things. So it was just, okay, you were able to tie him, so great, I guess. So yeah, clearly getting the rubber match, unfortunately. Just feels like Oba could be doing so many better things. But yeah, not the worst Lesnar match, but definitely not the best. And unfortunately, even Oba Femi being involved, it's just really struggle to get through a match like this. So 5 out of 10 for me. Yeah, I guess we'll get the one more match in probably at SummerSlam, and then I don't know what we'll do with Oba in the meantime, though. That's the only issue. So yeah, it does feel like we are halting his momentum, but the powers that be decided this was the marquee matchup. So we'll wait and anticipate the end to this one. With that, let's go ahead into the next contest, which has Sol Ruca going up against the man Becky Lynch for the Women's Intercontinental Championship. KP, thoughts on this one?
First and foremost, was dealt my first surprise of the show in this matchup. I was not expecting Sol Ruca to pick up a victory here and to defeat Becky Lynch to become the brand new Women's Intercontinental Champion. I just assumed that, Becky was set to continue her reign. Sol obviously just appeared on the scene, really, so didn't really expect her to send a wave crashing over and ending the reign of Becky. But I'm happy with it. I like it. I like being proven wrong. I think that's a good thing because sometimes things are a bit too predictable. But in this sense, I think this is a great idea. We're given a new opportunity here to Sol Ruca, just come up from NXT, and we can just see how she sort of like rolls with it. We've been a little critical of Sol in her time since coming up to the main roster. We asked her to slow down a little bit, maybe sort of like try and sort of like be a bit calmer with proceedings. I feel like she was for the most part of this matchup. There were a couple of sloppy moments, but nothing too crazy or critical. Not in terms of the style that we've seen recently. But I thought it was a pretty decent match. I quite liked it. Both women go back and forth quite nicely. We see just a lot of good sort of like mind games play between the two ladies. I think there's one point where Sol hits a manhandle sign on Becky Lynch, and Becky attempts a soul snatcher on Sol Ruca. She doesn't quite attempt it, but like she looks to set it up to go for it. So I quite liked those little bits of detail in there. That they were quite nice. And yeah, just generally really happy with the result and stuff, and just how things can be a little bit different going forward. But obviously, you look back at this one. Becky's had the title for a while now, gone through a fair few names, been involved in this, that, and the other. I feel like her time as the IC champion probably could come to an end now, so maybe she could go on to better things, bigger things, perhaps back into the main title picture. I don't know if that includes Queen of the Ring esque sort of area, but I think just for the time being, we do see Sol Ruca being allowed to have this new opportunity now. A new reign begins, so I'm not going to doubt that at all. I think it's going to be a great idea. So looking forward to seeing how she gets on. In terms of our finish here for this matchup, though, Becky looks for her second manhandle slam of the match. She actually hit one earlier on and Soul kicked out, which is a pretty big kick out. Soul then avoids that second manhandle slam, though, and then hitting her Soul Snatcher, and that would be the victory here in this match. So was lovely to see that she didn't have her opponent be kicking out of the Soul Snatcher, so keep that finish protected for the time being. The only person to kick out of that move has been Zarya back in NXT. So yeah, I'm quite glad that they've done that. So hopefully we can keep that sort of protected for a while at least. It's a great finisher when done correctly. So yeah, just a big point I want to highlight just there. But yeah, I thought this match was great. Had a nice vibe, flowed really well. Like I say, just a couple of little bits here and there. Wasn't the cleanest, but it was good. It was pretty good nonetheless. I give it a 7.5 out of 10. I thoroughly enjoyed it and loving the result too. Nick, what did you think though? What a result, right? Ruca picking up the win. I think you predicted that one, so fair play for that one. But yeah, you looking forward to Soul's reign? And what about this matchup ending Becky's title reign?
Yeah, just felt like the timing was right, in terms of, Soul being on the main roster. Yeah, it did seem early, but also, Soul is a very unique talent. Only one spot where she kind of felt like she didn't quite judge it correctly, but it was covered up quite nicely by Becky, I would say. But again, it's kind of singing the same tune. Um, because she continues to make those errors, it is going to be highlighted, at least from my viewing standpoint. So she does need to try to keep those very, very minimum. If whether that be slowing down or whatnot. But regardless, yeah, a surprise I think to most, and that including me. I didn't know they were going to do it. I just thought it made sense, and Becky's been doing a really good job of putting over talent. This being another example of that. So we can kind of put to bed those Becky Hogan comments, the ones that are kind of still have that narrative. So, but yeah, Sol Ruca looked really good here. Probably one of her best, if not her best match on main roster. You can tell though that she does kind of, especially after that spot, she starts to kind of second guess herself. I think she just has to take it a little bit slower. But I think she has loads of potential. I think that much is obvious, just from a character standpoint, and obviously what she's able to do in the ring. So a pretty good match here. Again, it helps when you're in the ring with someone with the likes of Becky Lynch, who's one of, if not the most consistent performer on the women's side. But yeah, this was a good contest, and Soul winning her first Intercontinental Championship. The sky is the limit for her. Loads of matchups I can't wait to see. But yeah, I'm looking forward to her reign. It'll be interesting to see what she can do as a character perspective when she's not the one chasing. I think by definition she's better at chasing than being chased. But now that we're on the main roster, we can kind of get a different perspective of that, see kind of what they make of her. I think it is going to be very. I think she could make a good heel. I think I've said that on the NXT level as well. I think she could make a good heel. We've seen glimpses of that on the NXT level, but I really do think she could make a fun heel. So with that, I thought this was a great contest, and 7.5 out of 10 for me. Definitely a step up from what we have seen in Soul over the last few times. Hopefully she can just continue to clean that up. And not really something you want to be saying about a champion, but regardless, I think she still is very new, and this is kind of the risk you run, putting a champion on someone so early, or putting a championship on someone so early. So we'll wait and see, and hope for the best here. Obviously, Soul does have loads of potential. So with that, let's get into the main event of the evening, which has Jacob Fatu going up against Roman Reigns for the World Heavyweight Championship in a tribal combat match. KP, thoughts on the main event of Clash in Italy?
So first and foremost, obviously we gotta, compare this one to the one from Backlash, because that's how we do, right? Go for the previous meeting between the two of them. I was quite critical on the one from Backlash. I didn't think it was particularly stellar. I didn't think it really lived up to the hype they were sort of like trying to build it upon. I thought the two men involved, they could have delivered a much better contest, generally speaking. So going into this one, tribal combat, I was expecting some big things. Obviously, you got a pretty good stipulation there. The feuds continue, just got a little bit more heated since then. The family's really been brought into it, and obviously there's a lot more, basically that can come off the back of this one. So I was expecting something a lot bigger. Did we get that? Not really. We got a slight improvement. That's what I will say. I would describe the match as decent to good. it was just nothing out of the ordinary for me. It felt very safe. It was just very slow, very methodical, which I get it. It's the Roman Reigns sort of, formula. That's how they tend to go, to be fair. But it was quite physical, and it had plenty of times. They were allowed to do a lot of stuff with it, and they're allowed to sort of like build that story they were telling throughout the contest. And that was essentially just trying to weaken down the hand of Jacob Fatu. Roman Reigns was trying to do that, and you're obviously looking to take out the Tonga Death Grip. So that was quite good in-ring IQ there from Roman Reigns doing that. That's probably one of the biggest highlights I'll make of this thing, because it did have that sort of like smart vibe to it from Roman, taking out obviously Jacob Fatu's supposedly biggest weapon, although it's been very ineffective since bringing it in. Again, I'm still baffled about that decision. This is meant to be a really deadly move within the Samoan family, and so far it's done pretty much nothing. Like in a match content here, outside of matches, sure, it's looked deadly as hell, but in matches it looks so ineffective. It's just the biggest issue I have with this whole thing. But there wasn't really as much on that focus for this match specifically. That was more the Backlash contest, so I'll let that slide a little bit here. But yeah, besides the ring IQ there from Roman, the match never really truly felt like it hit a brutal level. This is a tribal combat match. So massive fight, big brawl, big war. It had elements to it, sure. There was a nice announce table spot that we saw, not announce table, barricade spot where Roman Reigns spears Jacob Fatu through it. There's a couple of security guys sat either side, and they get sort of like crushed in the debris of that one. So that was quite a cool spot. I really liked that, to be fair. It was something a little bit different. They tend to use the other barricade, but this one was the one on the corner by the crowd, so that was quite nice. So yeah, I thought that was something a little bit different, which is good. But yeah, besides that, there were just so many spear attempts, and not really a whole lot of variety. Sure, there was a little bit of a brawl on the outside into the crowd and things like that here and there, but yeah, I don't know. I just felt like I was expecting a bit more from this contest. It was good, but it wasn't stellar or spectacular. That's what I'm trying to say here. It wasn't a bad match. That would be a lie, but it just wasn't particularly fantastic either. That's just my general vibe here. In terms of how we got to the finish one, in this one, Roman Reigns spears Jacob through a table that's been set up in the corner of the ring. And then he follows up with another spear after bouncing off of the ropes to get that win. One of the big notable parts of this is post-match. You can just see down in the bottom right corner. So obviously the caveat of this contest is whoever loses has to then basically stand in line with the winner. They've got to acknowledge them. They've obviously got to follow their lead going forward. Jacob Fatu losing this matchup means that he will have to stand by Roman Reigns and the Usos, essentially just becoming, part of that family as a full-time thing. Now, the interesting thing here is what we saw afterwards when we do have that sort of stare down between Roman Reigns and Jacob Fatu. They all get out the ring, they order Jacob to follow, and then as Jacob is getting out the ring, we then see Solo Sikoa, Tala Tonga, and Tama Tonga of the MFTs. They're still at ringside, they're watching, but obviously, of course, Jacob Fatu used to be a member of their family, so it's almost a bit of like, watching what was once theirs go over to the enemy now. Because let's face it, these two groups are not on the same page. They're part of the same family, sure, but they couldn't be further from, allies right now. So yeah, it was quite a surreal moment, that one, actually. I quite enjoyed that sort of like that little, segment there in the post-match. And Jacob Fatu had a really good stare towards Solo Sikoa especially. So it's going to be interesting to see how this one plays out. I'm more interested in that rather than what happened in the contest, which is interesting because we've obviously been through the bloodline stuff before many times now. But that's my main highlight of this one, the fact that we've got that sort of confrontation. There's a little bit of awkwardness, but I just thought it was a nice fit, to be fair, to end the show. So yeah, it's just a strange one from me. I gave the match an 8 out of 10. So I still gave it a pretty good rating. I just wanted a bit more from it. I wanted that physicality, that really brutal sort of onslaught here from both men. I know they can deliver, but it didn't hit that level for me personally. Maybe you disagree, Nick. That's absolutely fine. I'd love to hear your opinions and your thoughts, so let's go for it. What did you make of this matchup? Did you like it? Did you think it was the match of the night? Do you think it was better than the Backlash contest? Am I being overly critical? What did you make of that ending segment?
Well, I wasn't as critical of their Backlash contest, but that being said, I feel like everything else you've said is pretty spot on. Given the stipulation of the match, didn't feel like it ever really fully took advantage of that. Probably the first ever, while I'm almost 99% certain that is the first ever a tribal combat match. It didn't have like 25 people involved. Of course, I'm exaggerating a little bit, but I do believe every other match has had tons of interference, and that's why I didn't like the stipulation. But yeah, no interference here. Um, yeah, I mean, I guess It does feel like we're holding the momentum a bit of Jacob as well. You know, he's walked into the buzzsaw that is Roman Reigns, and although he's looked good in both contests, he hasn't been able to best him. So, you know, make of that what you will. No interference on this one, which was a large part and scheme of his first big long reign as the tribal chief. So, interesting enough. Yeah, no interference, and that's probably the one time I would say it would make sense to have interference, but. Lots of things to be said after the match, of course, and you referred to already as the Usos there on Roman's side and the MFT on Jacob. Well, maybe not on Jacob's side, but just there. But you've seen in the image there with Jacob. So, interestingly enough, I think we are going to see some sort of combination of that. Just don't really know exactly what. Roman nor Jacob, you know, looking super thrilled to see them there. So, it'll be interesting to see kind of the direction they take that. But yeah, this is in terms of a main event, felt like it was serviceable. Definitely not my favorite main event we've had, probably even this year. But it was good enough. Yeah, yeah, unfortunately, I just feel like we're kind of spinning our wheels here, and based on that ending, I don't think we're done with it. It'll be very interesting to see Jacob's reaction here moving forward. Roman doesn't appear to be letting go of that title anytime soon. Make of that what you will, but yeah, this is serviceable. Yeah, I give it a 7.5 out of 10, which is again a quality rating. Just felt like, considering the gimmick, probably should have expected a bit more. So make of that what you will as well. So with that clash in Italy, KP, love to get your highlights here, thoughts on the entire card as a whole. Did it meet your expectations? Did it under deliver? Did it over deliver? Love to hear from you on that regard, and we'll go ahead and get this one wrapped up.
That's a big question there. Did it over or under deliver? I mean, I think for the most part, it probably did under deliver. I probably disagree with more than I, you know, praised, I would say, in this one. Main highlights of the night being Rhea Ripley and Jade Cargill. Obviously, that was just an incredible contest. I thought easily my favorite match of the evening. So I really thoroughly enjoyed that one. The surprise of Ruca beating Becky Lynch was great to see. You know, I'm never going to be one to turn up my nose at a surprise like that. So that was lovely. But yeah, just unfortunately some very low lights here being the finish to Cody and Gunther, which was a decent enough match going into that bit, but just completely biffed the ending. And then obviously, yeah, the main event being a little bit lackluster, and then over Femi losing to Brock Lesnar. There are a few things I disagree. I can understand what the reasons are behind them all, but not gonna say I'm going to agree with them because of that. Overall, my rating of this event does come to a 7.5 out of 10, where matches put together on an average. So it doesn't sound too bad, but I feel like after just having watched Noche de los Grandes, coming off of that into this one, I was living on a high, so I just got brought back down to reality pretty much instantly. But there were some good elements to it. Just would have loved to seen a bit more of that. Unfortunately, there wasn't. So what are you going to do? We look forward to go out next time. It's going to be interesting. King of the Ring, Queen of the Ring stuff from here on out. Obviously, dynamics will change completely as we sort of like venture slowly towards SummerSlam and all that kind of jazz later on in the year. But yeah, we can put Clash behind us, but at least we got something to take away from it. Is that we got a brand new Women's Intercontinental Champion. I think that's probably the biggest highlight, personally speaking. Nick, what do you think about this one then? Clash in Italy, your overall thoughts as a show, match quality, rating, and just highs and lows. What do you think?
Yeah, I think in terms of lows, I'd probably go with the opening contest. Had high hopes for that one, just kind of expected something a bit more. Maybe not even needing the title change, but just a better match, I think, overall. And then, of course, the Lesnar Femi stuff, I think that's about what I expected. I just wished it wasn't. The highlights and the good points for me, obviously, being Sol Ruca winning her first IC championship and what was a pretty good contest. But I think the biggest surprise of the evening for me has to be Jade Cargill's continued improved in performance. For the fact that she has my match of the night, I think kind of is just something I never thought I would say. So props to Jade continuing that momentum, and props to Sol for winning her first IC championship. Yeah, it is quite a bit of a difference in terms of feeling for the overall card as a whole coming off that AAA event. WWE just seems to have lower lows, but is capable of higher highs as well. But it feels like you get the lower lows more often. So AAA was a very consistent performance throughout the card usually. So yeah, it is a bit of a difference, and it does get you back down to reality. But like you said, we have King and Queen of the Ring tournaments coming up, and then we have another PLE at the end of the month. So not given too much time to rest. So we'll look forward to that and kind of see if we can top Clash of Italy. Overall, for me, this one did come out to a 6.8, which I think was a good solid point plus lower than the AAA event. So make of that what you will. As you alluded to, you get brought down to reality pretty quickly. But overall, I feel like it was a success. Just some good and some bad. It's a typical WWE PLE. So, what were your thoughts on Clash of Italy? Let us know in the comments below. If you like what we're putting out here, please let us know as well. Don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button. But until next time, this has been The Push with Nick and KP. We'll see you soon. Take care.